This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is August 12th, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Maybe not always previously, but always presently and in the future. Kevin, what's up, man?
Hey, dude. August 12th, like when you said that, it just like, wow. Like, it's crazy that we're this far into the year. Yeah, here we are. This weekend has officially been like, at least here in South Georgia, the hottest weekend of the year so far. It has been brutal. Also, a lot of flooding where I am right now, which is kind of crazy coming off this hurricane / tropical storm thing. But I'm doing good. Street is dry. All that good stuff. I'm good.
Yeah. Last week, like Wednesday or Thursday morning, I walked out of the house. And I don't really typically mind the Florida humidity. You know, I've lived here most of my life, and I kind of like the humidity to a certain extent, but like it was turned up to 15. And I was like, I do not ever remember it being this humid. And then like a local meteorologist had made a post that like, oh, because the dew point is higher, we're experiencing like a deluxe version of humidity this week. And I was like, yeah, that tracks. So it's come down a little bit after, a couple of days. So maybe that's what you guys are experiencing now since you got hit with that after. But yeah, it's been pretty brutal. But we have some Olympic news. Obviously, we've been keeping track of Germany specifically through the course of the Olympic basketball tournament. Last episode, Germany was getting ready to play France in the Olympic semifinal, which they lost 73-69. We'll talk more about it in a little bit. But they still had a chance to medal in the tournament. They played Serbia in the bronze medal game, and they lost that game as well, 93-83. So after really impressive Eurobasket a couple of summers ago, and then an even more impressive World Cup run last year, it seems like the rest of the world had Germany on their radar coming into this tournament, and Germany wasn't really able to sneak up on anybody this time around, and Germany goes home medalless.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but isn't that just funny? We were just on here Thursday morning, just drooling at the idea of like United States Germany gold medal game. This Germany France semifinal is going to be incredible. Blah 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 blah, and all that, and Germany walks away with absolutely nothing to show for it. An impressive group stage, 3-0. Again, we'll talk more about it later, but definitely not the ending that most of us expected. Very very disappointing for sure.
And of course, we have to talk about Team USA, especially, in the gold medal game. And we will get to that. But before that, nothing official from the NBA so far, at least nothing that we have seen. But Shams Charania last week tweeted out that the NBA Christmas Day games for the 2024-2025 season, per sources, are, in no particular order, Spurs at Knicks, Timberwolves at Mavericks, 76ers at Celtics, Lakers at Warriors, and Nuggets at Suns. Kevin, what are your thoughts of this very Western Conference heavy Christmas Day schedule?
I hadn't even really noticed that. There's only 3 Eastern Conference teams on there. That's wild. I would guess that my initial reaction to this schedule is very similar to most Magic fans, and probably yours as well. You look at Nuggets, Suns, I get that. Yeah. Lakers, Warriors, obviously, of course. Sixers, Celtics, I get that too. Wolves, Mavericks, that's an interesting one. Mavericks, you get it. Wolves.
Oh, you're about to get me fired up. I know where this is going.
Knicks, they kind of have a tradition. They've been on Christmas Day most years, right? Especially at home, MSG at home. However,
I am so sick and tired of the Wemby glazing, bro. It has gotten to like disgusting levels.
Before you go on the Wemby tangent,
I'm so angry.
Before you go on the Wemby tangent, and I agreed at some level. However, I do think Wemby's crazy. The thing that most Magic fans, and myself included, will look at this first is actually less about Wemby and to me more about Paolo. The fact that Paolo Banchero, number 1 overall pick 2 years ago, rookie of the year, has had one nationally televised game in the regular season. And also, even if you count the playoffs, he only had 4. I think we had 3 NBA TV games. Maybe he's had 3. We might have had 4 NBA TV. I don't remember. We had at least 3 NBA TV games. Then you look over the other end, the guy that was drafted the next year as the number 1 overall pick.
The only reason that the last few games weren't NBA TV games because all the other series were pretty much wrapped up.
Right. Exactly. Or you can even add the only reason that they did have a nationally televised ABC game is because Paolo brought them there to that. Yeah. But then you look on the other side, Wemby gets drafted the next year, has had dozens of nationally televised games in his first year, and then in his second year is going to have a Christmas Day game at MSG. Like, that for me, like, again, Wemby is one of a kind. He's special. I get all that. I don't really mind the Wemby stuff. Like, it's okay. It's not my favorite. It's okay. But the Paolo neglect is what bothers me the most, for sure.
That adds to my issue with Wemby, right? But they could not mention his name during the entirety of the Olympic tournament without calling him the future of the NBA.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but it's like, sure, the kid had a great rookie year. Like, Paolo had a historic rookie year in his own right. You don't hear them talking about Paolo anywhere near in the same conversation. And I genuinely don't think those guys are that far apart. Like, if I needed to win a game tomorrow, I'm taking Paolo Banchero.
100%.
100%, right?
100%.
So the fact that Paolo, like, doesn't even get a 10th of the attention that Victor Wembanyama does. And Victor Wembanyama had a fantastic gold medal game. We'll talk about that. Yeah. He looked incredible. But the rest of the Olympic tournament, he felt a little bit underwhelming.
For sure.
I was not watching these games, these France games, like, oh my gosh, look at Wemby. He looks incredible. Now, in the gold medal game against, arguably the best team in the world.
On the biggest stage.
In France, like, it looked amazing. And I was like, okay, yeah, like, I obviously everybody understands the hype. But it's just the fact that, Paolo gets nothing. And in the second year after the Spurs just won, 20-something games?
That's what I was about to say. They just won 22
they're getting
games.
A Christmas Day game? What the actual F are we doing?
The fact that they won 22 games. That's the other part. And it's not like they had this crazy offseason. They signed, they got Harrison Barnes, they got Chris Paul. Is that enough to put you on Christmas Day at MSG? No,
maybe
it's not.
In 2017.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, they got Keldon Johnson. They got Devin Vassell. Of course, fine players, but they won 22 games last year. And here they are.
The most of those guys that you just mentioned, the older guys are washed.
I know. It's wild. Wild behavior.
The premature coronation of Wemby to me is unlike anything we've ever seen.
It's LeBron was similar, but not. But to LeBron me, wasn't on Christmas.
LeBron, it was more warranted than what we've seen with Wemby. As good as Wemby has been, LeBron was better from day one.
I would say yes. The only thing that I think Wemby has that has made him... No, I shouldn't say the only thing. The thing that has helped out Wemby in this is that he is just visually a freak. I think that is the big part of it.
Right.
Visually, we've never seen anything like him.
How many 6'10", 250 guys have we seen been able to move like Paolo Banchero?
I'm not arguing
very
that.
Short list. It's so stupid. Any argument that you give me about Victor Wembanyama, I have a better counterpoint for Paolo Banchero.
Yep. I'm trying to see
the fact that his team almost won 50 games last year, and he almost single-handedly dragged that team to a Game 7.
I'm trying to see what year LeBron had his first Christmas Day game. It wasn't 2005. So that was his second year. Wait, he didn't play on his first year, did he? No way. No, he didn't. Okay. It's taken me a while.
Pretty wild.
2007.
So what is that? His fourth season?
So 4 or 5. Yeah, his fourth season. That was his first Christmas Day game.
Adam Silver, brother. What are we doing?
It was a different era. There were only 1 to 2 Christmas Day games each, but he wasn't one of them. Until 2007, his fourth season, which is when they went to 3 Christmas Day games, and he played Miami.
So
wild.
Stupid.
Wild.
All right. Yeah. Well, another year that the Magic are not playing on Christmas Day, which more people than I thought are happy about that.
Yeah.
Like, I had quite a few people in our replies like, oh, I'm glad that they're not playing on Christmas. Like, I don't want them to play on Christmas, which I'm sure, like, after a few years, it gets old.
Yeah.
You know, especially for the players like LeBron for the last, 16, 17 years. Every year he plays on Christmas Day.
Yep.
Like, that has to kind of suck.
Right. Literally never had a normal Christmas Day with his kids. Like, that's got to suck.
Yeah. So, but how far do you think we are? I think we're probably at least 2 years away from this.
I would say at least one, probably two. I think
if we win 50 plus games this year and we're a top 3 seed in the East, then maybe.
Right. I think there's a situation where that happens. Where
but
a good
we'll
team
be playing in San Antonio.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We'd be on the road, either like you said, in San Antonio, or I think I mentioned this before. If we were to get a Christmas Day game in the next couple of years, it would be this late game, on the road at Phoenix at 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Like that could happen. But yeah,
right.
we are probably 4 or 5 years away from even sniffing hosting a Christmas Day game. I feel like. But hey, you never know.
Gross.
If we go on a tear the next couple of years, make the finals. You make the finals, you have to go on. You have to play Christmas Day the next year. That's just the rules.
Right.
I don't make them up. But wait, did both teams? Yeah, okay. Both teams that made the finals are playing this year.
Next year. So next year we'll be playing Christmas Day.
Year. Interesting. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay, we are going to talk more about Germany, just because there's a good conversation to be had about the German national team and their future after this Olympic run. But we would be remiss if we did not talk about Team USA and the Olympic run, specifically like their semifinal and their final. So if you've been living underneath a rock, Team USA has won their 5th consecutive gold medal in the Olympics, dating back to 2008. And 98-87 win over France in the gold medal game on Saturday. Kevin, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know we'll talk specifics about the game, but what are your thoughts just of this iteration of Team USA, which they've been named the Avengers, right? So we had the Dream Team, the Redeem Team, and now this is the Avengers apparently. But what was your thought on this team and this run overall?
First off, that's stupid. What are they avenging? That is dumb.
Not winning the World Cup last year.
Spare me. Whatever.
That's what spurred this whole thing is, we didn't win the World Cup. Well, here come LeBron and the rest of the good old boys to save America.
Maybe you guys should have been there. You would have won.
That's where this conversation is heading.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change. We had this discussion. Maybe I think it was on a playback. That's what it was. We did a playback earlier this summer, and we had one of our viewers who lives, I think actually in Germany. I think it was one of our viewers from Germany asked us, how we felt about the national team.
Maybe.
Might have been Dizzy. I can't remember. Asked us about how he felt about the United States national team. And you and I have very similar thoughts, but my stance is the fact that these players can just show up whenever they want to, I think is wrong. It's totally, totally wrong. Like, if you want to show up for the Olympics, you should also show up for, let's say, the World Cup like last year. I mean, that was last year. Yeah, last year, right? Yeah, last year. Like the fact that they can just pick and choose whenever they feel like it. And especially, I mean, the fact that it was in Paris, you don't think that contributed to some of these guys wanting to play? Like, you think if this was in some random, country, who knows where, I bet some of these guys don't even come out for that. But because
this is in Qatar, there's no way.
Right. But the fact it was in Paris, you had all these dudes wanting to show up, fighting over spots on this team, complaining about even not making this team, some guys. But then they just get to show up and ball out. And, they had a couple close calls. But of course, this team should have won. Like, obviously, we talked about it earlier this summer. The depth of Team USA was, unmatched in this tournament. But again, the fact that guys can just show up, I am very much of the opinion, and I might steal some of your thunder here, I apologize, but that it should be cycle based. Like, pick a pool of guys. This is your pool for the cycle. And when I say cycle, I'm talking about all the tournaments over like a 4-year, basically an Olympic cycle. It culminates with the Olympics. And you pick from those, 20, 24 guys, whatever it is. Some guys can be picked for some tournaments, some guys aren't, and that's okay. But they got to be all in. All the guys got to come to the camps unless they're injured. They got to be playing against each other in those camps, like all those things. It just makes everyone better. It makes the team more cohesive and the organization more cohesive. So that when you come up against like a Germany, for example, who on paper is not as good, but they also, they gave them a run for their money in the warm-up game because of the consistency that team has had. Like those guys have played around each other for years and years and years and years versus this iteration of the team that literally got together about a month ago. Like the fact that they're spoiled. The fact they can just get together a month ahead of time, put this all together and scrape out a gold medal, I think is just a little bit annoying. It's, I guess, cool they can do that, but that's a long answer to your short question. I still don't like where it is. I wish it could be better. I think it could be better. I just don't see it happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, you and I are, pretty much in lockstep with this opinion, so I don't want to like regurgitate a lot of what you said, but I think where this current iteration of Team USA is, where it literally took a bunch of 34-plus-year-olds and Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James to really be the anchors of that team. And when it came to winning time, down double digits against Serbia, they turned to LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. Against France, they turned to LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry especially to close out that game with literally a legendary Olympic performance in the final minutes of that gold medal game. But being as how the Olympics are, there's not going to be a World Cup next year. It's going to be 2 years from now, and then we'll have the Olympics in 2028. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about the schedule there, but we're probably not going to see LeBron, KD, and Steph Curry participate in the 2028 Olympics. This is Team USA as a program, their opportunity to say, okay, we're just going to go super young and we're going to restart basically the rules that like Jerry Colangelo and Mike Krzyzewski had in place going back to like the 2008 team, if I'm remembering correctly, where if you wanted to play in the Olympics, you had to commit to 2 summers. You had to play in the World Cup, and then you got to play in the Olympics. The fact that year after year or Olympic after Olympic cycle, we are able to put these teams together for 5-6 weeks and they win the gold medal, it just sort of feeds into like, oh, we can just sort of show up and win. But like you were down 13 in the second half to Serbia. Yep. Like you very easily could have lost that game. And then at that point, you would have been playing for the gold medal. And to me, that arguably would have been maybe not as bad as like, winning the bronze in Athens, but pretty close, especially with all the narrative that, oh, we're the Avengers and we're coming to avenge the World Cup team from a summer ago. That really does bother me that, they didn't play in the World Cup. Now they get to come through and they just beat the heroes of USA basketball. And I just think that this Olympic cycle is evidence yet again that the world is catching up and we can't continue to rely on this model of USA basketball. And I hope Grant Hill and Steve Kerr or whoever is going to be running USA basketball, I'm assuming it's going to be Grant Hill, but maybe it won't be Steve Kerr coaching Team USA in the next Olympic cycle. But yeah.
I guess the only thing I'll add to that is I mentioned players really wanting to play in Paris. The line of players that want to play in LA 4 years from now, every American NBA player is going to want a piece of that. So that's going to be interesting. I don't know if that's going to change how they structure this. The fact that it is on our home soil and all that stuff, I don't know. But that's going to be I mean, the atmosphere, I don't know if you want to just go ahead and jump ahead to this gold medal game, but like the atmosphere was crazy. And in part because, just European sports culture is awesome and everything. The atmosphere in 2028, should the United States make the gold medal game, will also be crazy. I hope it's not watered down by a bunch of celebrities, sitting in the first several rows. It probably will be. It's Los Angeles, but
yeah.
But if we can have any half of the atmosphere of what was Sunday's game or Saturday's game, that was electric. And of course, this is like the duality of being an NBA fan, a sports fan, a basketball fan, a United States fan, and an Orlando Magic fan, because all the things that I just said are true. Like I don't like how this is structured. I don't like they could just scrape this together and pull it out. However, that was really freaking awesome. Are you kidding me? And that's part of what I'm saying about the duality of being a Magic fan too, because don't forget, it was just a few months ago that this same knucklehead, Stephen Curry, was putting our fans night at Kia Center, and I wanted to tear him apart. I was so mad. I thought it was childish. It was awful. He played horrible that whole game. The Warriors played horrible that whole game. They miraculously pulled it out, and then he has the balls to night us on his way out. That made me really angry. And then yesterday, I was fired up while he was doing it. Like that was like I had the honor of watching that live, and that was one of the I've watched a lot of basketball, Jonathan Osborne, a lot of basketball. That was like a top 5 basketball, like out of body experience that I watched. Like that was bonkers. That dude is crazy. I can't stand him in some ways, but in other ways, like what an honor it is to like live in the same era as him. And I know that sounds like so hypocritical and backwards, but it's true. Like I feel both emotions at the same time. He's a legend.
You can be a fan of the basketball. You don't necessarily have to be a fan of the way it was put together. You don't even have to be a fan of the person necessarily. Right. And I'm not saying that like we're not fans of Steph Curry the person, but I'm just saying like regardless of what you think of like LeBron James, he's corny, blah blah, he's a coach killer, he's le GM, whatever you want to say. Yeah. You can feel that way, and you can be frustrated by the way he cries about calls and and the way that he interacts with his teammates. Whatever, that's all fine and well. While also recognizing that he's one of the 1 or 2 greatest basketball players of all time. And it's the same thing with Steph.
Yeah. Just in some ways like a very cool crowning, final piece of the crown for Steph in his career. LeBron and KD, they got their thing too, but like to go out like that, those threes were stupid, man. That was so fun. That was crazy. I know what it's like to be a Warriors fan now in some ways.
Yeah, I can't, in terms of just like pure basketball brilliance, there haven't been a lot of out of body experiences as a Magic fan in my lifetime, other than like, the 2009 run, the 2010 regular season. But like I've witnessed a few that have to deal, with the Warriors. Like that one, the gold medal game was definitely one. Like Klay Thompson, Game 6 against the Oklahoma City Thunder back in, what was that, 2016, before they lost to the Cavs. But I did not watch that game live, but I saw, the reactions. I try to stay away from Twitter and a lot of the clips because I wanted to experience it, for myself when I got home last night. And I remember everybody like in our group chat, like texting like, oh my gosh, that Steph shot was crazy. So I'm watching the game, and they've got a, whatever it was, like a 5 or 6 point lead, when he started to get going, and he hits one. I'm like, okay. Hits another one that he kind of had to like sidestep and then like step into. And I was like, oh man, that one was crazy. And then he hits the third 3. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, like this is really impressive that he closed out this game with 3 straight threes. Like, surely it can't get any better than that. And then he hits the 4th one where like throws the ball to KD. It goes back to him, the behind the back over 2 of the French players. And it's just like, I don't know that I've ever seen a shot with more loft than that.
Yeah.
And for that to go in, it was just like, this is absolutely insane. Yes, it's like the crown, achievement of Steph. It's like the cherry on top because the way the Warriors have, gone the last couple of years doesn't, unless he leaves Golden State, I don't see him winning another one in Golden State. But like they made the point to talk about LeBron a few times throughout the broadcast of like, he's wanted to be in this moment again, like a game that really means something because it's been quite a while, and moving forward, it looks like those opportunities are going to be fewer and far between. So seeing those 3 guys, LeBron, KD, and Steph, who have really like led this generation of basketball, and it's weird because LeBron has led like 3 generations of basketball up to this point, but this younger generation, like they've really grown up with LeBron, KD, and Steph, and this being maybe one of the best things that each of those guys will do in sort of the final pages of their final chapters. That was pretty cool to experience. That being said, the whole thing still annoys me.
Still a sham. It's annoying. But I can't argue with how much fun that was. And I think maybe not equally as fun, but another thing that was fun, like that was a top Twitter moment. Like when that happened, like Twitter was I'm a loser. Like I love Twitter. Twitter is awesome. I will always call it Twitter. And it's for moments like that, like it was really special, which we found out, I think it was today. Yeah, it had to be today that it came out on Sunday that 19.5 million people watched that game. And I'm just looking now. That is the most. That is more than a finals game since 2017.
In the US, or is that globally?
No, that's the NBC viewership. So in the United States,
that's crazy.
Which is more than any NBA finals game since 2017, which was Warriors Cavs. So like the numbers, like crazy numbers for that game. And you could tell because again, like Twitter just lost it and it was so much fun. But yeah, that was like, I don't normally like post and talk about other like non-Magic players because it's just a little bit weird to me. But that moment, I just have to respect it. It was really awesome.
And I'm not usually somebody that like comments on like other commentators. And I knew of Noah Eagle. And it seemed like obviously, you know, with his dad and, you know, his reputation, to me, it was like, oh, well, it's pretty convenient that, you know, you're not just coming on the scene, but you're still relatively new to the scene, especially like NBA basketball. And here you are getting to call all of Team USA games, like
27 years old, by the way, 27.
Right. But when I tell you, man, like throughout like the entire Olympic tournament, how impressed I've been with Noah Eagle. And like his voice and his presence and his confidence. I mean, calling a game with a literally NBA legend and Dwayne Wade and being able to hold his own, he just did a phenomenal job. And it makes me that much more excited about the NBA coming back to NBC because we're going to get to listen to Noah Eagle a lot.
Big time. As long as NBC is smart and throws in the bag and keeps him there, like, yeah, the fact that he's 27, and let's be honest, he is in the position because of his dad, like, period. Like, there's no way a 27-year-old calls the gold medal game with LeBron and Steph and KD like that. That just never happens. So did he get there because of his dad? Yes. But he showed that he deserved to be there as well. Like, right. He was awesome this whole tournament. But yeah, that gold medal game, like 27-year-old Kevin is literally pooping his pants watching that. Like, there's no way I could keep it together and actually call a game, much less crush it like he did. So yeah, him calling, you know, the 2035 Orlando Magic championship on NBC is just going to be amazing. Amazing. Now, NBC doesn't have the finals.
The fourth of our six consecutive.
Yeah. So they get it. This starts in 2025, and I think it's a 10-year agreement. So maybe starting in 2036, NBC will get the finals. So when they Magic lift our fourth, it'll be really cool to hear, you know, Noah Eagle call that.
Yeah. All right. Let's turn off the Team USA switch and let's talk a little bit about Germany. So obviously, like you mentioned on our last episode, we were really excited about, you know, Germany. They had crushed France in the group stage when they had played. And we thought that, yes, you know, France had made some tweaks to their lineup and some tweaks to their approach and were playing much better, but you still felt like Germany had a good chance. And they did. I mean, they lost 73-69. You know, really, it was they had it, you know, not they didn't have it. They had a chance until the final minute of that game. But basically France's strategy, and I think it was Lessort from France was talking about it after the game, that basically their defensive strategy was to not let Franz Wagner beat them, like basically force anybody else to beat them, and just didn't really happen. Now, Franz had a good start. I think he had like 7 points in the first quarter, and then after that didn't score again until a late three to really keep the game alive. But Franz was being double teamed basically every time he touched the ball in this game, and other guys just weren't really able to step up and knock down shots and really keep the game close. So Franz finished with 10 points in that game, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 4 of 10 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 2, and 2 of 6 from behind the arc. Not the best Franz Wagner game, but people that were trying to compare this to like the Game 7 performance against Cleveland, not even remotely the same thing. But and I think we'll talk about, you know, Germany overall once we mention the bronze medal game. But yeah, just not a fantastic performance from Franz Wagner, but France was literally selling out to stop him, and he couldn't really get enough help elsewhere to make France shift from that strategy. So the entire game he was being doubled.
That's what I was going to say. The lack of help elsewhere. I mean, you can maybe point fingers at Franz, but at the end of the day, there's 9 other guys that saw the floor in this game. And I mean, stop me if you've heard this before, Jonathan. 25 of 62 from the field, 40%, 10 of 34 from 3 for 29%, and then 9 of 13 from the free throw line, 69%. Sounds awful like maybe Franz's club team in certain games this season. It's rough. I will never sit here and blame Franz 100% for this. Even Dennis Schroeder, who made the first team of the tournament, he didn't play well either. Like, if you're going to say it, if you're going to, ride that coattail the whole summer and say Dennis Schroeder is the king of Germany and blah, 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 you got to point fingers at him too. But at the end of the day,
was a +9 in this game, by the way.
Yeah.
Schroeder was a -8.
At the end of the day, I think you just have to give a lot of credit to France. Like, they came in with a really strong game plan. They learned from their loss against Germany in the group stage, and they made it work. And they made more plays down the stretch and all those things. And so I think it did, point out some flaws in Germany that, we can discuss in a little bit. But the last thing I'll say about this France game, we talked about it in the last episode. Don't let it be a close game, because that building is going to be rocking if it is. And by golly, it was. Like, obviously, that gold medal game was a different, conversation. But even the semifinal, that atmosphere, I think, definitely played a role down the stretch. Close game. Like I said, even though Franz hit that 3 to make it, I think, a 1 or 2 point game with 30 something seconds left, they wouldn't get any closer than that. So disappointing. But for anyone that sits there and blames Franz for the whole thing, I mean, you don't know ball. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, France, as good as Victor Wembanyama was in the gold medal game, France got to the gold medal game off the back of their role players, and I think that was the biggest difference in this game. Like, Victor Wembanyama, 11 points, 4 of 17. Evan Fournier was 2 of 7. Nicholas Batum was 3 of 7. Like, you look at Matthias Lesort, he was 4 of 5. Isaiah Cornier was 6 of 13. Gershon Yabusele, 7 of 11. Like, it was those guys stepping up for France really throughout the group stage, but especially obviously in the semifinals and the finals. Like, those are the guys that got them to that point. And then, Wemby was awesome in the gold medal game. But to me, that was really the biggest difference in this game against France. And then we can talk about their loss to Serbia, 83-93. Again, Franz was not amazing. 18 points, 5 of 14 from the floor. He was 8 of 9 at the free throw line. He was a -9 in this game. And then Mo Wagner, 16 points, 7 of 14 from the floor. He had 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Dennis Schroeder, 13 points, 4 of 11. So he wasn't great in this game. But like, you just go up and down the box score, and Germany just has not had enough guys throughout this tournament step up in the way that they did last year in the World Cup and the year before that in Eurobasket. So I don't want to put all of the blame, on Franz Wagner. Like, at least he got more shot attempts in this game. But, Serbia, Jokic, 19 points. Micic had 19. Bogdanovic had 16. Marinkovic had 10. Petrusev had 11. Avramovic off the bench had 13. Like, they just up and down the roster got contributions. And again, for the second game in a row in this tournament, where Germany loses after I think they had won like their last however many games it was going back to the World Cup last year, and then through the group stage, they just did not have their role players step up the way that these other teams did, and that's why they went home without a medal.
Jokic triple-double, by the way. I'll throw that in there too, because why not? He doesn't get enough in the NBA, so he had to get one in the Olympics. Yeah. I think, again, it just points to what works for this Germany team is their cohesion, is their familiarity with each other. I think that works in certain situations. However, with that comes shot making, right? Like, you're not asking most of these guys to be elite at, creating or finishing at the rim or all those kinds of things. But part of what makes them work is their ball movement, which leads to open shots. And if they're not making open shots, then that's going to be a problem. So that's one of the strengths of this team, but certainly one of the weaknesses is the opposite of that. Like, if shots aren't falling, if they aren't able to break a team, however a team sets up against them defensively, they just lack other scoring options, basically, right? I mean, like Franz is looked at by some people to be that. He's not necessarily always given the keys in that way, though. Like very rarely do we see Franz just be given an opportunity to take over a game. I think in part because of Dennis Schroeder being there, but they just lack those kinds of weapons, and so it's a gift and a curse for Germany. And again, you live and die by the three, and they definitely died by the three, especially in the France game, but even the Serbia game, definitely would have liked to see them hit a couple more threes to keep it interesting. But yeah, obviously very, 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 very disappointing end for Germany summer, especially after such a promising group stage, 3-0, 3 convincing wins, relatively so. So to come away without a medal, I know those guys have just got to be absolutely gutted.
Franz Wagner was named to the All-Olympic Tournament second team. Dennis Schroeder was named to the All-Olympic Tournament first team. So those guys, they walk away with a little bit of recognition, but like we said, without the medal. But I want to take a minute just to talk a little bit more about the German national team in general. So Gordon Herbert, who's been the head coach of the German national team the last several years, he's stepping away. He's resigning as the German national team head coach. So they'll be looking to hire a new head coach. For the next, I think Eurobasket. I don't think there's anything next summer. I think Eurobasket is the summer of 2026.
I think it's next year.
There's one year coming up where like Franz is not going to have like a German national team obligation pretty much. But regardless, like moving forward, obviously, last year there was the talk that, Maxi Kleber might be joining the team for the World Cup. And then there was something that happened allegedly with Dennis Schroeder, but I don't know that one guy is going to keep an NBA level talent off of a German national team. Maybe there was some stuff going on with the rest of the team or the organization there. But you've got guys like Maxi Kleber, like Isaiah Hartenstein, like Tristan da Silva, who those guys moving forward should be able to be like high level contributors for the German national team. And when you look up and down their roster, like sure, Franz is incredible. Dennis Schroeder has been really good at times, but Theis is aging. He didn't really have a great tournament. Johannes Voigtman, he didn't have a great tournament. Johannes Thiemann is a guy who I feel like has good moments, but overall the last few summers for Germany has been inconsistent. And then Andreas Obst, who's been great the last few summers, he was mostly neutralized throughout this tournament. And then, you've got guys like Isaac Bonga, but Niels Giffey and Nick Weiler-Babb, Mauro Lowe, Oscar da Silva, those are guys that didn't see Nick Weiler-Babb did see a good amount of playing time, but like Giffey, Lowe, Oscar da Silva, Tristan da Silva's older brother, those guys didn't see much at all any playing time in the Olympic tournament. So there are significant spots on this roster where Germany can continue to improve. Like you swap out Hartenstein with like for Theis, massive improvement. If you're able to, bring in Kleber and Tristan da Silva in the place of like Johannes Thiemann and maybe Isaac Bonga or Andreas Obst, again, a massive improvement. So this German team definitely does have a pathway to add talent, between now and the next Olympic cycle. I think they need to do that. The head coaching choice is going to be really important for them. That hire is going to be a big deal. But Franz is the guy for me on this team that needs to take it to another level. They probably will need like another guy to break down defenses like Schroeder does. I don't know that Franz is ever just going to be the guy like, oh, I'm just going to take over and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop me. Like if teams load up, he's going to have to move the ball like he did, specifically against France. But Germany, I just think it was teams sort of figured them out and they figured out that, hey, if we just throw everything at Franz and Schroeder, these other guys aren't really good enough to beat us. And the way that they've knocked down shots in previous tournaments, we didn't really see that from the role players, at least in the semifinal and in the bronze medal game. So still excited about Germany, really excited about their future, but it does feel like they have quite a bit of improving to do if they want to keep pace with the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's definitely the end of an era.
At least the contenders, sorry.
Right, yeah. I think it's definitely the end of an era, but I don't think it's the end of, a promising potential future for Germany. Just really quick, I did look through things as you were talking about that. 2026 is the year without a tournament. 2025 is Eurobasket. 2026 is a break. 2027 is the FIBA World Cup, which ironically, Jonathan, I don't know if you knew this. I didn't know this. You know how you were joking earlier? If the Olympics were in Qatar, would they go? That's where the 2027 World Cup is in Qatar.
Awesome.
Qatar. So we'll see.
Man, what a stretch for Qatar.
Right. Hey, that's
FIFA and the FIBA World Cup. Look at them.
Hey, they say money can buy everything, and that's exactly what happened there. Money bought
Shout
the World Cup.
to Ronaldo.
Yeah.
You know?
So anyway, FIBA World Cup 2027 going to Qatar. Do you want to do? When we talk about our patrons here, maybe you thinking, or what do you want to do?
I was actually going to talk a little bit about Jam Hot Chicken.
Oh, okay.
Jam Hot Chicken is proudly serving the city beautiful to bring in jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Jam Hot Chicken, our friends over there, they're a Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated in Winter Park, Florida, located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. All their chicken is hormone and antibiotic free, made fresh and fried in 100% peanut oil. You can check them out at jamhotchickenfl.com to access their menu, online ordering, music playlist, and all things Jam Hot. And a big update about Jam Hot is now they're available on Uber Eats. So let's just say whatever you're having some car trouble, but you're really craving some Jam Hot Chicken, don't fear. You can get them on Uber Eats, delivered right to your door. Jam Hot Chicken also ranked in number 4 in Yelp's top Florida restaurants of 2023. So if you are in the area, or even if you're not in the area, again, you want to take advantage of that Uber Eats, get your Jam Hot Chicken and tell them that the boys at the Six Man Show sent you.
Yeah, we love Jam Hot Chicken. The Uber Eats thing, you think they deliver 4 hours away? Maybe you think it?
I don't know.
Yeah, probably
maybe
not.
You might have to get that like FedEx, overnighted.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that. But another big shout out that we have is to our patrons. We have some amazing folks that financially support the show. Speaking of which, one of the things we do on each and every episode, we shout out our Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons, which I say to you, our next Hall of Fame Elite Tier Zoom call is coming up this Thursday. So be on the lookout for a link for that for all our Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons, which, by the way, if you want to join us on that, sign up at the Hall of Fame or Elite Tier level. But we have several other levels available. You can check us out at patreon.com/The Six Man Show if you want to join us in financially supporting the show. But like I said, we will shout out our Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons, which we have the Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Ellis, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Franz's Warmth, Pierre A, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Danimal, Bobby Skinner, Goody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Dalek Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, has Jose Esquilin, oh man, I botched that, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Ty Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95 Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Rican, Shahin 177, Bolby the Don, Himlo Band Himro, R Improv 221, Ray Pastrana, Magic Kid 714, Mysterious Mosley, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz, Maria Keith Wallace, Fritz, Bruv Sal, Kason Green, Santi Leon, man. Kane Eckler, The Distract, Chansu, Tom Gadsden, Dead Air, Richard Tuttle, Jeremiah Quintero, Magic Wire, Debo 1980, Magic Matt, Michael Thompson, Mama Richmond, Next Snapper, What's Up, Playoffs 2024, Dylan Fay, David Duffy, Smiths, Chic Ship Sinks, Wait No Time, Santino 1995, Suggs Muggs, Daniel Anderson, Barry McElcanny, and Jose Marrero. Thank you so much to those Hall of Fame Elite Tier patrons and all of our patrons for supporting the Six Man Show.
You barely survived that.
Yeah, I would not call it surviving. That was something. It's always an adventure, but we're grateful for all of them.
Absolutely. All right. One thing that we thought would be fun to do is talk about 2028 is the next Olympics, obviously going to be in LA. There's going to be a long list of people that are, interested playing for Team USA, and probably every, national team that'll be eligible and qualified for those Olympics. We thought that it might be fun to talk about which players on the Magic roster we could potentially see in the 2028 Olympics.
So I think, first off, can we start with a no-brainer? Like Franz is, like, no doubt.
Yes.
We just talked about him. Like, Franz is a no-brainer. Outside of that, I think some other guys are up for discussion, right? I mean, obviously, we would all love
Mo
to see
Wagner is a no-brainer.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
probably.
Mo. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't mean to disrespect Mo. Yeah, the Wagner brothers, both no-brainers, locks for Germany, unless they have some sort of revolution in basketball there in Germany. likes we have never seen, where you got some 14-year-olds out there that become 18-year-old superstars. But no, yeah, Franz and Mo are going to be there. Outside of that, obviously, we all would love to see Paolo there, right?
Has to be.
So let's look at the numbers. Hold on, let's look at the numbers.
To me, it's as
right?
sure of a lock as Franz Wagner. If he wants to be there, he will be there.
Let's look at the numbers, okay? He is, what do we say? He's still 21. Still 21. So 4 years from now, he's 25, right? Like, what is 25-year-old Paolo going to look like?
At least a 2-time All-NBA, probably, at least one top 5 MVP finish in terms of voting. He'll be a 5-time All-Star by then. Potential, Eastern Conference champ. I know we're forecasting quite a bit here, but within 4 years, he's inarguably going to be one of the best 10 players in the NBA.
So when I'm thinking
potentially top 5,
when I'm thinking about a 25-year-old Paolo, I wanted to look at the current roster and think about the 25-year-olds, or somewhere around 25, right? You got Tyrese Halliburton. Do I think Paolo is going to be better, especially better suited for a Olympic basketball team at 25 than Tyrese Halliburton was this summer? Yes, for sure.
Which, by the way, I do find Tyrese a little bit odd, but his tweet after that game,
legendary.
If you hadn't seen it, he has his Olympic medal on. He's like, when you do nothing, for the group project, but still get an A.
And he's just smiling. That's
the
so
level
funny.
of self-awareness. I really appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But you look around him, Anthony Edwards, 23. Absolutely. The other big one, which is kind of ironic, but Jason Tatum, 26 this summer. It's ironic because Jason Tatum, didn't play at all in the semifinal. And there was quite an uproar about that. Maybe rightfully or wrongfully, I don't know. But when I look at those, Devin Booker, 27, when I look at those guys, I'm like, do I think that Paolo Banchero can be as good as those guys in the context of Olympic basketball when he's 25? I think the answer is absolutely yes. I also think, just one more thing additionally to that, that team in 2028 is not going to have these three shoe-ins, basically, like Steph, LeBron, KD. Doesn't matter how they played this past season, they were always going to be on this Olympic team. Like, they were never, and that's because of who they are. Like, 3 of maybe the 10 greatest players of all time. I would say 3 of the 10 greatest players of all time, all on the same team. They were always going to make it. I don't see another set of 3 guys that are just going to be locks like that are going to take away spots from players that really deserve it. Not to say they don't deserve it, but I think it is pretty much a lock for me. Like, the Orlando Magic bias is on one thing. The Orlando Magic negative bias from the rest of the world is also on this shoulder. Like, I don't know, the NBA and the national media, they don't like the Magic. Maybe Paolo gets snubbed. But when I look at all the facts, it just feels inevitable. I feel like Paolo's going to play in Los Angeles, and that is going to be really fun to watch.
And I would argue, we saw him last summer on the floor with Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton, Mikal Bridges, Anthony Edwards, right? And there were stretches, I forget which game it was of the World Cup. It might have been their very first game. I forget who they played, but Paolo was the best player on the floor, right? Like, his skill and size and athleticism and his strength is such a unique mix at 6'10" that I just feel like he would be basically unstoppable if given the freedom to play his game, right? And not talking about the mid-range fadeaways and all that kind of stuff, but just put your head down, coast to coast, get to the rim, finish through contact. I think Paolo could be a, maybe not defensively, but although he was very good defensively in last year's World Cup, could be a better version of Bam Adebayo. And everybody talks about how perfect Bam's game is for FIBA. I think Paolo is that on steroids, especially offensively.
Yeah, especially
so to me, it's a no-brainer.
Especially at 25, right? Yeah. I mean, again, this is what we see now at 25. Yeah, sign me up. I think it's going to be great. One more thing as I say this out loud. LeBron's not playing
You
in
know what?
2028, right?
I don't know, man. You know what? You know what I think is dumb? Like LeBron, right? Like over the course of an 82 game season and 20 plus playoff games, does he still have that kind of tank? No. But 4 years from now, can he put together 3 weeks of incredible basketball?
In Los Angeles. That's the only.
I
If
think
it's not,
he could. Like, I wouldn't even rule out LeBron retiring from the NBA and coming back and playing for Team USA in the Olympics.
yeah.
And I don't know that I'd be mad about it.
If it wasn't in Los Angeles, I don't think it's a conversation. But the fact that it's in LA, I think it's not impossible, which is crazy. Yeah. It's crazy to think about that.
Now, the team would, in his eyes, have to be good enough for him to be like, okay, because he's not going to go out and win a bronze medal, you know,
right.
and that let that be the, you know, the blemish on his, you know, Olympic resume or whatever, even though he already has one. But
right.
Yeah, I don't know. The next guy for me is Jalen Suggs. He had the involvement in the USA Select Team this year. Obviously, he didn't really participate a lot in that for, you know, whatever reason. But I absolutely could see him being in like the Drew Holiday, you know, or the Derek White role.
Yeah,
maybe not the Drew Holiday. He would have to take a few more steps, you know, in his progression. But I could see him being like the Derek White of the next, you know, U.S. Olympic team.
Absolutely. When you look at a potential need in an Olympic roster, where you need 3-point shooting and you need lockdown backcourt defense. How many guys around the league that will be, you know, in that he will be in his prime. Jalen Suggs will be in his prime ish, 27, right? He's 23, 22, 20, 26, 27 ish in 2028. Like to me, it's very, very possible. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a lock. A lot can happen between now and then, but I absolutely think that could be a role for him. Again, going back to this idea that 3 spots on this roster were reserved for old dudes. Like, I mean, the really old guys, right? And at least 2 of those will be gone, depending on what LeBron does. And so that should potentially open up, you know, more opportunities for other guys. So yeah, I think it's totally possible. Sign me up. Again, if the Magic have 2 players, the Orlando Magic have 2 American players on Team USA, you and I might be making a trip to LA, brother. That'd be wild to see those guys in that tournament.
Man. You see how crazy Paris has been?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. We'll talk.
We got 4 years to figure it out. Yeah.
Another guy that I think is probably more likely, even though I do think Jalen has a very realistic path to it, another guy that I think is more likely is Tristan da Silva. Like, if I'm Germany, like Isaiah Hartenstein is probably the number 1 guy that I'm looking to go out and get on that team. Tristan da Silva is either 2 or 3.
To me, it's not even about, you know, Germany is one thing. If he decides to stay with Brazil, you know, as his nationality, that's even more of a no-brainer.
His brother already plays for Germany.
I know that. But I'm saying for me, it doesn't matter whether he plays Germany or Brazil.
True.
I think you're right. I think the possibility of him being there is super high, especially if it's Brazil, honestly. I think he's got a better chance of making the Brazil team that's not as good as it once was. But yeah, that's probably, if you're talking about odds and stuff, I would definitely pick Tristan as next, probably.
And then after that, Georgia would have to make the Olympics, but it would be Goga Bitadze. You know, they'll have to qualify. But I don't think that is outside of the realm of possibilities. Yeah. But after Goga, though, I think the list dries up pretty quickly. You know, like Jonathan Isaac probably aged out of that. You know, I don't really see that happening. Corey Joseph, you know, playing for Canada in 4 years. Not likely. Shot. Kentavious Caldwell Pope would be 35 years old. You know, probably not. Caleb Houston, Jett Howard, Anthony Black, Cole Anthony, Wendell. I don't really see, you know, any of those guys making Team USA.
If I had to pick one out of that group, it is J.I. Do I think a 30-year-old
in 4 years?
Yeah, hold on. Here again. If I had to pick out of all those guys, are you picking somebody else other than J.I.? Because I'm not. I don't think any of those guys have a chance. I think Jonathan Isaac is the only one that has a microscopic chance, and that's
maybe AB. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, that is true.
I would say AB just because, you know, if he, really makes, leaps and bounds offensively,
Right.
he could also be a guy that I could see in like that Derek White kind of role.
That's fair. But with the JI thing, if he gives you 4 healthy years and is still a defensive menace, we have seen in years past, again, not this summer, but in years past, true, just pure defensive big men make an Olympic roster. Remember Tyson Chandler? Yep, yeah. Tyson Chandler was the big name. There's one other one I can't remember. But either way, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. Would I bet any money on it? Absolutely not. But I would say of that group, to me, he probably leads the clubhouse of that.
Right. Okay. Last thing that we are going to talk about is we can no longer find it. We don't know what happened to it, but there was a post floating around Orlando Magic social media that had garnered a little bit of conversation. We thought it would just be fun to go through that. So the post was like a hypothetical like expansion draft. So everyone knows that it's probably pretty likely over the course of the next, 5 or so years that the NBA is going to expand a little bit. It seems like Las Vegas and Seattle are probably the teams that are most likely, or the cities that are most likely to get NBA teams. So when that happens, if you're not familiar with what happens when the NBA expands, is those new franchises basically get to do what is called an expansion draft. Obviously, because they don't have any players on their roster. So they get to pick players from other teams around the NBA to be on their team. And basically, the last time there was an expansion draft was in 2004 when the Charlotte Bobcats, joined the NBA after the Charlotte Hornets and moved to New Orleans. And then there were the New Orleans Hornets, and we had the Charlotte Bobcats. And then the New Orleans Hornets became the New Orleans Pelicans. So Charlotte took the Hornets' name back. It was this big old thing. But last time that happened is teams could basically protect up to 8 players on their roster. And then Charlotte had the ability to pick one player from each team. You could pick up to one player from a team, and you would have up to 14 players, I believe, is they had to have a minimum of that they would draft. So we thought maybe it'd be fun to just go through and talk about like what 8 players we would basically protect from the Orlando Magic. Kev, do you want to go ahead and get us started here?
As we start, I'm curious, when you made your list, did you put them in like order of like if
I put them in order?
Okay. So I did too, which makes me think we should go through the order and feel like which players you value the most versus which players I value the most. Okay.
Sure.
Number 1, it's easy. Let's knock it out. It's Tristan Vasil. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Paolo Banchero. Yeah, Paolo Banchero for sure. Obviously, number 1. Number 2, Franz Wagner. I'm assuming. Wagner. Okay, cool. Number 3, did you have Jalen?
I don't. Who do you have?
I have Jalen at number 3.
I have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Do you want to know why?
I do.
In the rules of the last expansion draft, if a player is coming up on restricted free agency to the expansion team, they are treated as an unrestricted free agent. So if a team were to take Jalen Suggs, he hasn't signed his extension, but in the previous expansion draft rules that I'm reading on NBA.com, it says, where is it here? Yep. Who are under contract or are restricted free agents. It says any eligible restricted free agent selected by the Bobcats shall immediately become an unrestricted free agent. So Jalen Suggs would become an unrestricted free agent. So I don't think we would have to protect Jalen Suggs. But if I had to, of course, he would be number 3.
Wow.
So I don't have Jalen on my list because of that little nuance there.
You and your little loopholes over here.
That's right.
I didn't read that in the fine print. Excuse me. Okay, but if you had to include him,
he would be third.
He would be your number 3. Okay, so this is where we would diverge potentially a little bit because you said you have KCP, which would technically be number 4. So is that because of the contract thing, or would he actually be your 4th person? Would you think?
He probably would be my 4th person. Yeah.
We have it a little bit swapped. Maybe this is controversial. I do have Jonathan Isaac next, which might be controversial, but again, that is just still betting on a healthy Jonathan Isaac. But I would put him next. And then is that who you have at 5?
I have JI.
Okay, yeah. So we swap KCP and JI. I think that's totally fair. I'm curious who your next is.
Next is Wendell.
Okay, I also have Wendell.
You have to have a starting center on the roster.
It's recommended. Yeah, I also have Wendell. Now, this is where I think it might get a little bit spicy.
I don't think it's gonna.
Really?
I don't think it's gonna. I feel pretty confident about these last three, and I feel like you're gonna have the same three. I would even guess that you'll have them in the same order.
Anthony Black.
Yes.
Chet Howard.
Next. Yes. Next.
Cole Anthony.
Over Tristan da Silva. Now that is interesting. I have
Tristan da Silva hasn't played a game of basketball.
Correct, but
NBA basketball.
You just use your first round pick on him, and at this point, I think if you came to me tomorrow and said, "Hey, we have to move one of these guys," I would probably move Cole Anthony.
I in some ways agree, because as I've said many times on the show, we know what Cole Anthony is, and there are many of him in the NBA, and so maybe that does make me a little bit hypocritical. But I still couldn't, just because we've never seen him play an NBA game. That's the drawback for me.
I feel super high on Tristan da Silva. I know Summer League. I know we're not supposed to overreact to Summer League, but he just looked so good, and he just fits the like Magic prototype better than Cole Anthony does.
Yep, I know.
And at this point, we know what Cole Anthony is, and you just spent the first pick on Tristan da Silva. I just feel like because of what you used to acquire him, you're obligated to protect that player.
I get it. We also once upon a time used the first round pick on Cole Anthony, but it's okay.
Yeah, like almost 5 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. So we had those guys swapped.
Or almost 4 years ago.
Did you have Cole above Mo?
I would have Cole Anthony above Mo. I stopped at 8. I didn't go through the whole roster, but I would have Cole Anthony above Mo. Probably just above Mo.
I got you. You stopped at 8. Okay, got you. Yeah. So then I had Cole, Tristan, and Mo. All right. So that leaves potentially, I think the 4 might be identical then. The 4 that we would open up for the expansion draft.
Yeah. Goga, Gary Harris,
Caleb, and Corey
Joseph.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was identical.
Correct.
Well, that was anticlimactic. No, just kidding.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. I will say, like, these were the rules of the last expansion draft. Yeah. I think there's the potential because now there are more teams, but it also depends on how many teams are coming into the league at the same time. There's the potential that you could, protect more or less players.
I would say less,
the next expansion draft. So I'm not
curious.
looking forward to that because usually, if you're a good team, like I remember when the Kraken and the Golden Knights, came into the NHL, like worrying about who is going to get swept up from the Lightning in the expansion draft. And I think it was Yanni Gourde. Was taken
for the Kraken.
Yeah, for the Kraken. So not looking forward to that, and it just seems like it's inevitable.
I would say first off, the fact that it could be 2 in the same offseason, 2 teams being added in the same offseason instead of 1. That's a little terrifying. But I will also say, I have a feeling that most Magic fans would have those 4 as their players open for expansion. If you disagree with that, I'd definitely love to hear what your thoughts are on that. So definitely let us know in the comments or on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, because I'm definitely curious. Maybe there's an argument out there, but I have a hard time believing many Magic fans will want to stray away from those 4 as being unprotected. But maybe I'm wrong.
All right. Well, that was fun, but I think that's going to do it for this one. Unless there's something that we miss. I don't think so.
Only thing I'll say is, Jonathan, we are so close to that schedule. I mean, we
should have it within the next 2 weeks at the absolute most. I would say probably within the next 10 to 12 days.
That's what I was hoping. Yeah. I think it'll be next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What is that? The 20th through the 23rd.
It's like the next 8 to 11 days, something like that.
Hey, the fact that the Christmas Day schedule is already leaked, maybe it's sooner, maybe it's later this week. I don't know, but I would guess it's next week. I hope so because, man, we all know I love a good schedule. So we'll see. That'll give us a lot to think about, a lot to discuss, and it'll be fun.
Looking forward to that. Okay, that is going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See you.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!